morning, children. Today we are going into a new lesson. Now, before going into the new lesson, we will see a small video of different animals and birds eating the food. Okay, so here you can see a small video. What's the video? I hope you have seen the video. What did you see in that video? Yes, we saw that different animals, birds, insects, isn't it? They all are having food. Don't we also have food? Yes, isn't it? We also eat food. Now, do all the animals eat the same type of food? No, isn't it? What is the difference? Yes, the animals or the carnivorous eat flesh, whereas herbivorous eat vegetables or fruits or plants, and insects, they don't eat the type of fruit that the animals or the birds eat. So there is variety in the food which the organisms eat, isn't it? Each organism have different types or various types of food. So now in this table here, we can see there is diversity in the food which the organisms eat. Now look at this table here. You have a picture also given in the textbook. What are we to do there? Yes, look into the textbook. Complete that table. So when you complete that table, what can you see there? Yes, each animal or insect, they eat different type of food, and the mode of food is different. What is the meaning of mode of food? Yes, some of them tear and eat the food, some of them nibble and eat the food, isn't it? So there is difference in the mode of eating. So you have to complete that table according to the food and the mode of food they eat. Now I hope you have completed the table. So we know that all organisms need food, isn't it? And the food and the mode of procuring it means getting it is different from organism to organism. Each organism finds its own way of getting food. Okay, the animals, some of them they hunt for the food, some of them they go for searching food, some we have to give food. So each organism has a different mode of getting food. So the process of intake and utilization of the food by the organism is called as nutrition. So what is nutrition? Anything you eat does not become nutrition for us. How does it become nutrition? The way we take the food and utilize the food for our body is called as nutritions. So plants are also organism, isn't it? Don't they require food? Yes. In the previous classes, that is 5th standard and 6th standard also, and in the smaller classes we have learned lots about the plants, the way they prepare food, the way they utilize the food, the way they get nutrition, isn't it? Now look at this picture. This picture is very familiar for us. We have learned that in 5th standard and in 6th standard, isn't it? What is that procedure called as? Yes, that is called as photosynthesis. So how do plants prepare the food? They take in the carbon dioxide, the sunlight, and using the chlorophyll inside them, they prepare their own food. And what do? They give out oxygen and water, isn't it? Give out oxygen and water. They take in water and minerals from the soil, and also they give out oxygen and store the food as starch in different parts of the body, isn't it? So we know that during photosynthesis, the carbon dioxide is accepted by the plant and oxygen is given out, isn't it? So green plants do not depend on organisms for their food. Do they depend on any organism for their food? No. They prepare their own food, isn't it? So hence they are called as autotrophs. So here we are learning a new word now. So the plants, we learnt in 6th standard that plants produce their own food. They are called as producers. Now here we are learning plants produce their own food. So they are called as autotrophs. Autotrophs means producing their own food. So on the other hand, what are the other organisms they do? Yes, all the other organisms except the plants depend on others for their food, isn't it? All the other organisms, including human beings, we depend on plants and animals for our food. So we are called as heterotrophs. So what are autotrophs? Autotrophs are organisms who prepare their own food, and heterotrophs are organisms who depend on other organisms for their food. Now here we saw autotrophs and heterotrophs. Now, do all plants prepare their own food? We have learned something in the earlier classes, isn't it? Yes, what have we learned? Yes, there are plants which depend on other plants too. Haven't we learnt about them in 5th standard? Yes, what are they called as? Yes, we have learned they are called as parasitic plants, isn't it? So what are parasitic plants? Can you name some of the parasitic plants? Yes, we have learned about Loranthus, isn't it? Cuscuta, yes, Cuscuta, Loranthus. All these are parasitic plants. So what is the meaning of parasite? Yes, parasite is an organism which depend on other organisms for their food or for their survival. They depend upon other organisms for their food. So if you take a few parasitic plants, you can see the picture here of a sandalwood. Do you know about sandalwood? Yes, we know sandalwood grows in the soil, isn't it? Sandal is a plant which grows in the soil, but it is a parasitic plant. We may be wondering how. How is it? Yes, the sandalwood, in the initial stages of its growth, what does it do? It needs minerals to grow, isn't it? So, under the soil, its roots go and search for another plant which lives close by, and from the root of those plants, it absorbs the minerals and the nutrition which is needed for its growth. So, sandal is not a complete parasite. Sandal is a partial parasite. What's the meaning of partial parasite? Partial parasite is a plant which depends only on minerals for its growth from the other plants, but they prepare their own food through photosynthesis. Do you know another plant which is a partial parasite? Yes, we know, isn't it? Loranthus, we have learnt in 5th standard. What is Loranthus? Loranthus also is a partial parasite which grows on different trees. So here you can see the picture of a Loranthus. We know even in our compound, if you look at the mango tree or the jackfruit tree, sometimes we can see the Loranthus on top of that. So Loranthus is a partial parasite. What does it do? It takes the minerals from the branch of the tree for its nutrition, but it prepares its own food through photosynthesis. So plants which prepare their own food, but they depend on other plants for their nutrition, only for the mineral and water, they depend on the other plant. Such plants are called as partial parasite. So you know that if the Loranthus is growing on a particular tree, you can see after some time the branch will dry and fall off, isn't it? So that means what? The Loranthus takes the minerals and water from that branch. So eventually what happens to that branch? That will dry and fall off. And even the sandalwood, you can see if the sandalwood is growing anywhere nearby, the nearby plant might dry off. So you know that sandal is a parasite. Now, we know other plants also which are complete parasites, isn't it? Do you know which plant is a complete parasite? Yes, it is Cuscuta. In Malayalam, we call Modilla Thali. You would have seen certain places when you go, you can see that thread-like, it will be just thread-like. It does not have any leaves, but it will spread on the nearby plants, and you can see the plants under it are completely dry. So it does not have leaves, so it cannot produce its own food. We know only if there is leaf and chlorophyll, it will be able to produce fruit. So Cuscuta is a plant which does not have leaf. It is a total parasite. It completely depends on its food on the other plants on which it grows. So you can see the picture of Cuscuta here. So Cuscuta is a total parasite, complete parasite, and partial parasites we know. Now, we would have seen other types of mushroom, isn't it? Where have you seen mushroom? Yes, we can see mushroom growing on dead branches or dead barks or dead things which are fallen, plant parts which are fallen into the ground during rainy season. You can see the mushroom growing up, isn't it? So how does it grow up? Yes, it does not destroy anything. It just takes the decayed matter. From the decayed matter, it takes in the nutrition what it needs and it goes. So they are called as monotrophs because it takes food from the decayed organic remains. So it takes food from the decayed organic remains of plants. So they are called as monotrophs. They come under the category of saprophytes. So here we can see three categories. One is total parasite, one is partial parasite, and one is a saprophyte. So these plants depend on others for their growth and nutrition. I hope it is very clear for you. Now, we will go into other. There are parasites. Are they parasites only in plants? No, isn't it? There are other parasitic organisms also. Which are the parasitic organisms? Look into this picture. Here you can see one is louse, then worms and flea. Where have you seen this louse? Louse we have seen on the head, isn't it? Lice, what we call on our head, in the hair. If you don't clean it properly, we have lice or louse inside the head. So they depend on our body for its food. You know, it will bite the head and it will suck our blood for its nutrition and food. Then we have worms. Worms, where do we see? Do we see it outside? No, worms are inside. Worms are parasite which grows inside the body of organisms. So inside our stomach also sometimes we have worms. So we know when we were in school, deworming tablets are given to us, isn't it? Once in a way, once in a term, from the health department people come and give us tablets, and then we have. So deworming is done for the worms inside our stomach or inside our body to get destroyed. Then we have flea. Fleas, where have you seen? Yes, we have seen fleas. If you have pets at home, on dogs and cats, we can see fleas. So here we can see that louse and fleas are parasitic organism which lives on the outside part of the organism, on outside the body of an organism they live, and they depend for their food on the organism which they live. And worms are parasitic organism which lives inside our body. They take the nutrition. So if you have worming problem, children, those who have lot of worms in the stomach, we can see whatever we give them to eat, what happens? They do not put on weight. So we know that they have worming problem. So we give them a tablet. So this is what we call. So these are also organisms which depend on other organisms for their food. So not only the other organism, there are small parasitic organisms which depend on other organisms for their food. Okay. Now, there are plants, many type of plants around us, isn't it? There are many types of plants around us. Have you heard about carnivorous plants? Yes, isn't it? In 5th standard, we have learned about carnivorous plants. What are carnivorous plants? In the earlier lesson also, we learned about carnivorous plants. What are carnivorous plants? Yes, carnivorous plants are plants which catch the insects, isn't it? They feed on insects. So how do they do this? Do they take and eat it? No, they just squeeze. Why do they catch the insects or other organism? Yes, we know. We have learned in the previous chapters about nitrogen, isn't it? So we know that certain plants are there. All the plants, they need carbon, hydrogen, phosphorus, nitrogen, sulfur, calcium, all these things for their growth. So in large quantities they need. So we know there are certain bacteria in the soil which converts the atmospheric nitrogen into nitrates and mix up with the soil. Now in the previous class we learned that the soil of certain places may be more acidic about alkaline and acids. We learned in the previous chapter. So some places the soil is more acidic. So what happened? Nitrate content or nitrogen content, the bacteria which converts these nitrogen into nitrate will not be present in the soil which contains more of acid. Okay, so what happens? That soil will not have nitrogen. So the plants need nitrogen to grow. So what do they do? They in such places, plants, insectivorous plants grow, which get the nitrogen from the insects which are there in that area. So they catch the insect, they squeeze it, and they take the nitrogen from the body of the insect for their growth and for their survival. So we have learned, we have seen many types of carnivorous plants. Some of the pictures you can see here. We can see Venus flytrap is there. Then sundew or drosseria, what we call. Then we have bladderwort. Then we have pitcher plant. All these are different types of insectivorous plants. Now in CANAL also, we have a place where we can see these insectivorous plants if you go during the season. So teacher has gone to that place and taken a small video for you to show directly the insectivorous plants of that area, that is Madaipara. If you go, we can see the insectivorous plants which are there in CANAL. So please watch this video. As we all know, Madaipara is famous for its flora and fauna. And the peculiarity of Madaipara is that we have learned lots about carnivorous plants, isn't it? Why are some plants carnivorous? That the plants use the nitrate, which is absorbed, nitrogen which is absorbed from the atmosphere, and that is converted into nitrates into the soil with the help of certain bacteria that we have already learned in the previous lesson. Now, when a place is highly acidic or when the soil is highly acidic, they will take this nitrogen in the soil. So what do the plants do? The plants take the nitrogen from the insects which are around them. So such plants are called as carnivorous plants. So the peculiarity of this Madaipara, this area is very less in nitrogen. So mostly all the carnivorous plants are seen in this area. So today I have come here to show you few varieties of carnivorous plants which we can see here. Now see here. Here we can see one type of carnivorous plants, that is, it is called as sundew. You have learned about this in the 5th standard. Here you can see sundew. This is also called as Drosera. What is the peculiarity of this plant? You can see here. It's got hair-like projections here, and when the insects come and sit on it, it will just roll it out and squeeze it inside. So this is the peculiarity of sundew. If the finger here, it will slowly roll up through the finger and it will catch the prey. So that is how the sundew catches the prey. So this is sundew or Drosera as it is called. Here also you can see lot of sundew is here. Then another carnivorous plant which I would like to introduce is this one. This is called as Insectivorous, or in Malayalam it is called as Kakapoo. Now this Kakapoo is also it's also a carnivorous plant. So how does this catch the insect? It has got a bulb-like sac underneath the soil. So it attracts the insects from underneath the soil, and that is how it catches its prey. So here it is seen near the marshy. Now here you can see a little water pool-like area. So all these plants are mostly seen close to the water. So here lot of sundew you can see here. Here there is, see, all these different types of sundew. Here you can see another plant here. This is familiar for us. This is called as Kakapoo, or it is called as Insectivorous, or in another words it is called as bladderwort. Now why is it called as a bladderwort? It is called as a bladderwort. Here you cannot see some plants. You will see here there will be a small bladder or a sac-like projection outside, and from inside the soil it will catch the insects which are coming there, and it makes it their food, or it squeezes and takes out its nutrients. So this is also a carnivorous plant, what you can see here. So children, you have seen the video of Madaipara. Only little teacher could get, and only 2 types of plants I could search and get from there. So anytime you are traveling that side, you can go and see these things. So in Madaipara we have sundew or Drosera, what is called, and bladderwort or Insectivorous as it is called. So these 2 plants it is seen there, and you can search for more plants if you want. So these are the insectivorous plants. So they also depend on other insects or other organisms for their food and for their nutrition. They do not depend for food, but they depend for their nutrition or nitrogen. So I hope it is very clear for you. Thank you, children.